You didn't stumble here by accident. Something guided you. Not the algorithm, not chance, but that quiet pulse that has been echoing behind your ribs since you can remember. You've ignored it for years, buried it beneath responsibility, noise, and survival. But it never stopped calling. And tonight, it found its way back to you. For a long time, you felt it. That strange tension between who you are and who you're supposed to be. The feeling that something inside you knows more than your mind can explain. Every dream, every heartbreak, every silence. It was all language you forgot how to read. There's a reason the world around you feels heavier lately. The noise has grown louder, the lights dimmer, and your thoughts more restless. You've tried to fill the emptiness with distractions, but the void keeps whispering your name. That isn't weakness, it's awakening. Something ancient in you has begun to stir, and once it starts, nothing can silence it again. You were not born by accident. You were placed. Long before your first breath, before your name was ever spoken, there was an intention written into your being. A mission sealed beneath your skin. You felt it in the way you never quite fit, in the way ordinary life never fully satisfied you. You've carried fragments of remembrance, flashes of a world that doesn't exist here, yet feels more like home than anything else. And now, the veil is thinning. The signs you've been dismissing as coincidence are coordinates. The sensations you've called anxiety are the vibration of memory returning. Every storm that has passed through your life wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The breaking, the confusion, the moments you thought were your end were only shaping you into the vessel you were meant to become. But here's the truth that few dare to speak. To awaken is not to escape the darkness. It is to descend into it consciously. The light you're looking for isn't above the pain. It's inside it. That's why you were chosen. Not because you are flawless, but because you've survived enough to understand that pain is not the opposite of purpose. It's the door to it. The mission that waits for you isn't written in sacred texts or carved in stone. It's written in your patterns, in the fears that repeat, the relationships that mirror, the wounds that never healed. The demon you must face isn't lurking in the shadows of the world. It's the shadow within yourself, the one that feeds on your doubt, your guilt, your silence. And yet, even it is not your enemy. It's a threshold, a guardian standing before the next version of you, daring you to step through. So breathe. Let the noise fall away for a moment. Everything you've been searching for has already been waiting. Behind the fear, beneath the stories, inside the quiet. What you're about to hear is not just a story, not a lesson, not even a revelation. It's a remembering, a descent through 6 gates of transformation, each one unlocking another layer of the truth you've always carried. If you feel the pull, don't resist it. You've answered this call before. This is simply the moment you remembered. 1. The awakening of the chosen. Listen closely. This is not noise. This is not another voice drifting through your screen. This is a signal calling you back to yourself. Something ancient inside you has been waiting, silently watching every decision, every wound, every breath. It's the part of you that remembers who you were before fear taught you how to forget. You've felt it, haven't you? That pressure behind your chest that never goes away. The whisper in your mind when the world goes quiet. It isn't anxiety. It isn't imagination. It's a reminder, a message. You are being summoned. There are moments in life when reality bends, when coincidences pile up like breadcrumbs leading you somewhere you can't yet see. You call them strange, random, uncanny. But they're not. They are coordinates. Signs marking the path of a soul chosen to wake up. The truth is, you were never just another person walking this earth. You were signed, long before time learned your name. A mark hidden in your spirit, invisible to all but the forces that shape destinies. That mark is burning now. That's why you feel restless when others are calm. That's why silence feels heavy, why your dreams echo with symbols you can't explain. It's not madness, it's memory. Something inside you remembers the promise you made before you were born, the promise to confront the shadow that stalks you. Not an external beast, not a figure with horns or wings, but something more intimate. The part of you that feeds on fear, doubt, anger. The parasite of your own light. That is the demon. And it has known your name for a very long time. It hides in patterns, the same mistakes you repeat, the same pain that returns disguised as new beginnings. It watches, waiting for you to forget who you are, because forgetting is how it survives. But you have started to remember. That's why you're here. Everything you have lost, every person who left, every collapse that made you question your worth. It was all part of the training. The breaking wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You were never meant to live soft. You were meant to awaken sharp, tempered by chaos, refined by disappointment. Because only those who have walked through fire can command it. So listen. Your awakening is not gentle. It's a storm ripping through the illusion you've been living in. It will break everything that isn't real. The masks, the fears, the false loyalties. You will be stripped until all that remains is the part of you that cannot die. That's where your power begins. You are not here to survive. You are here to reclaim. The light you thought you lost, the strength you thought was gone. They were never taken. They were only hidden behind the veil of forgetfulness. This is the first phase of your mission. To remember your origin. To recognize the call when it comes, and to stop mistaking your awakening for pain. It isn't pain, it's rebirth, and somewhere in the unseen, the demon stirs because it knows the chosen one has finally opened their eyes. 2. The demon in the mirror. Night has a way of revealing what daylight hides. When the noise fades and the world exhales, you start to hear the truth beneath your thoughts, the trembling frequency of something ancient watching from within. It doesn't wear a face, yet you've met it 1,000 times. It waits in the quiet moments, in the pause before you speak, in the reflection that doesn't quite look like you anymore. The demon is subtle. It doesn't knock. It blends. It learns your habits, your rhythm, your fears, until it can imitate your voice perfectly. Then, one day you realize the enemy never came from outside. It came from inside the echoes you've ignored. It began the first time you chose silence when you should have spoken. It grew when you swallowed your rage instead of releasing it. Every suppressed truth fed it. Every act of pretending became another layer of armor for it to wear. And now, it's fluent in your language. You see, demons don't always haunt the dark corners of forgotten temples. Sometimes they inhabit the unspoken corners of human hearts. They are fragments of pain given consciousness. The more you avoid them, the stronger they become. That's why this mission isn't about exorcism, it's about confrontation. You cannot cast out what you refuse to acknowledge. So imagine it now. Not as a monster, but as a shadow taking form from your unhealed self. It stands behind you, mimicking your breath. Its presence is cold, not because it hates you, but because it remembers who you were before you buried your fire. It wants to survive, and to survive, it must keep you asleep. Every time you doubt your worth, it feeds. Every time you chase validation instead of purpose, it grows. It doesn't fear light. It fears recognition, because the moment you see it, the illusion collapses. There are nights when the chosen one wakes drenched in sweat, the taste of fear still burning in the mouth. You think it's just a nightmare, but it's not. It's a meeting. The demon calls you through dreams, testing your resolve, whispering in symbols, the faces you see, the corridors you run through, the endless chase. They are not random. They are invitations. Every dream of pursuit is your spirit saying, "Stop running." The true battlefield is never out there. It's inside the chambers of the mind, the place where memories and emotions wage invisible wars. That's where the demon thrives, in confusion, in guilt, in self-doubt. It knows your weaknesses better than you do because it was born from them. But there's a rule the dark can't escape. What is created by your light can be unmade by it. The same mind that gave birth to this entity can dissolve it, not through hate, but through clarity. You will not defeat the demon by shouting scriptures or reciting mantras you don't feel. You defeat it by seeing yourself without distortion, by remembering every version of you that survived, by understanding that the demon's power depends entirely on your belief in its permanence. Tonight, when you stand before the mirror, don't look away. Look deeper, past the tired eyes, past the familiar face. Ask, who am I without fear? Listen to what answers, not with words, but with stillness. That silence is your weapon. And when the reflection trembles, when it feels like the darkness is staring back, don't blink. You're closer than you think. The demon doesn't fear your strength. It fears your awareness, because once you see it clearly, it no longer has a place to hide. 3. The chamber of stillness. There comes a moment when noise loses its power. When you stop running, stop fighting, and just listen. Not to the world, but to the vibration underneath your own thoughts. It's quieter than a whisper, yet it carries entire galaxies of meaning. That's where your war truly begins, not in chaos, but in silence. At first, it feels like emptiness. The absence of distraction makes you uncomfortable, like standing naked before your own truth, but stay there. Stillness is not emptiness, it's exposure. It reveals what movement tries to hide. You start to notice how every emotion has a shape. Fear vibrates fast, like static. Anger burns sharp, carving its way through your veins. Guilt lingers, sticky and heavy. But beneath them all, there's something else. Something untouched. It's the pulse of your spirit, waiting patiently for you to remember its rhythm. The demon doesn't exist here. Not really. In the chamber of stillness, it loses form. Because its power feeds on reaction, it survives on your resistance, your panic, your need to control. But here, in silence, there's nothing for it to grasp. It tries to scream through your thoughts, but the stillness absorbs every sound like water swallowing fire. You begin to see it differently now, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. A mirror showing the parts of you still bound by illusion. Every fear it amplifies is a lesson. Every wound it touches is a doorway. The question is, will you walk through or keep standing outside, afraid of what's inside you? Most people never step in. They live just outside their truth, numbing it with comfort, with noise, with endless movement. But the chosen ones, they enter. They understand that stillness is a weapon sharper than any sword. To sit with yourself without flinching is the most dangerous act of power. In that chamber, memories begin to surface. Not random, but chosen. The laughter you lost, the betrayal you never processed, the promises you forgot to keep to yourself, they rise like ghosts, asking to be seen, not to haunt you, but to be released. You realize that healing is not about erasing pain. It's about no longer identifying with it. And as you breathe through it, something extraordinary happens. The boundaries between you and the world blur. The air feels thicker, alive, responsive. Every inhale feels like an agreement with existence. I am here. I remember. You sense the threads connecting everything. The pain, the beauty, the silence, the storm, they were never separate. The chamber changes with your perception. What was once darkness becomes depth. What felt like isolation becomes intimacy. You start to feel gratitude, even for the demon. Because without it, you might never have entered this room. Without its chaos, you would have never sought the stillness that now defines you. The chosen one learns here what no battlefield could ever teach. The real victory isn't in destroying the darkness. It's in transcending the illusion that you were ever separate from the light. When you emerge from the chamber, nothing looks different, yet everything has changed. Your voice feels steadier. Your eyes hold storms and serenity in the same glance. You have not slain the demon. You've dissolved the stage where it used to perform. And now, as you step back into the world, stillness walks with you. Every sound is sharper, every color more alive. Because once you've seen your own depth, nothing shallow can hold you anymore. 4. The rite of fire. The air trembles. Somewhere between breath and heartbeat, the veil begins to thin. The world you know flickers like a dying flame, and another one, older and hidden, breathes beneath it. You stand at the threshold, half shadow, half light, and the fire waits for your name. This is the place where words are not spoken but felt, where silence becomes language, and every heartbeat is a drum summoning what was forgotten. You are not brought here to kneel. You are brought here to ignite. Before you, the circle is drawn, 6 symbols carved into the dust, glowing faintly as if remembering their purpose. They are not ancient because of time. They are ancient because of truth. Each mark corresponds to a vow: remembrance, surrender, courage, forgiveness, trust, and rebirth. One by one, they pulse in rhythm with your breath. Remembrance. You lift your hands to your chest and whisper, "I have never been lost." And something answers, not outside, but within. A vibration, warm and knowing, echoing through your ribs. This is the memory of origin, the point before the fracture, when light and dark were one. Surrender. You open your palms. The pain you've carried slides out like smoke, twisting, resisting, then dissolving into the air. The fire does not burn it. It absorbs it, transforms it, because nothing is truly destroyed. It only changes shape. Courage. You inhale the scent of ash and ozone. It smells like endings. Every heartbeat feels like an explosion. You realize courage isn't loud. It's steady. It's not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to stop because of it. Forgiveness. The wind shifts, shadows swirl. The faces of those who hurt you appear in the flames, distant, distorted. Your instinct is to turn away, but you don't. You face them one by one and say nothing, because forgiveness is not permission. It's liberation. The moment you stop demanding repayment, your soul stops bleeding. Trust. The circle hums louder now. The fire rises higher, forming patterns that seem to breathe. You close your eyes and lean into the unknown. Every doubt becomes a spark that joins the blaze. Every "what if" is swallowed by the certainty that something greater is guiding the rhythm. Rebirth. The final vow. You step into the fire. It doesn't burn. It remembers you. The heat wraps around you like recognition, and the ash beneath your feet feels alive. You realize you were never meant to destroy the demon. You were meant to transform it into light. The enemy was never the darkness. It was your refusal to see its sacred purpose. You raise your head. The fire answers with movement, spiraling upward, splitting the air with silent thunder. It doesn't consume you, it crowns you. Your eyes reflect gold where there used to be fear. Your breath carries a new sound, calm, ancient, unshakable. The ritual completes itself not with a word, but with stillness. The circle fades, the air cools, the fire sinks back into the soil, leaving only a faint shimmer. A reminder that the light was never external. It was always waiting beneath your skin. Now, the chosen one stands reborn, not in triumph, not in noise, but in quiet radiance. Every scar glows faintly, no longer as evidence of pain, but as symbols of passage. You do not need to prove your power. You have become it. 5. The Valley of the Two Suns. They say there was once a world lit by 2 suns, one of fire, one of memory. The fire sun burned bright in the heavens, giving warmth to all who walked beneath it. The memory sun glowed within each soul, invisible yet eternal, and as long as both suns burned together, the world remained in balance. But one day, the memory's sun began to dim. People forgot their origins. They traded silence for noise, truth for convenience, spirit for survival. When the inner light faded, shadows rose to fill the absence. From those shadows was born the demon of the hollow sky, a being not of hatred, but of hunger. It fed not on blood, but on forgetting. It moved between people unseen, whispering doubt into the cracks of their hearts, devouring their faith, one thought at a time. And with every soul it touched, the world grew colder. Then came a child who remembered the second son. They were not mighty nor fearless, just aware. They could feel the demon before it appeared, sense its movement through the tremors of their own heart. Where others saw despair, they saw a pattern. Where others prayed for light, they searched for understanding. When the time came, the child climbed the mountain where the two suns once aligned. The journey was long, each step heavier than the last, as if gravity itself resisted their ascent. At the summit, the demon waited. It took the shape of everything the child feared: failure, guilt, loneliness, loss. Its voice sounded like every doubt they had ever whispered in secret. "Why fight me?" it asked. "You created me." The child said nothing, because in that moment they understood. This was not a battle of destruction, but of recognition. The demon existed because the world had forgotten, because they had forgotten. The child took a breath, steady and deep, and opened their hands. From their chest, the memory sun flickered weakly, like an ember clinging to life. The demon laughed, a sound that shook the mountain, but the child did not flinch. They reached into the ember with both hands and lifted it to the sky. Light broke through the clouds, not a gentle glow, a storm of brilliance, fierce and alive. The fire sun above answered, merging its flame with the ember below. The two lights became one, and in their meeting, shadows dissolved like smoke. The demon screamed, not in pain, but in realization. It was not being destroyed, it was being remembered. The light didn't burn it away, it revealed what it truly was, a fragment of the same source, long separated, now coming home. When the brightness faded, the mountain was quiet again. The child stood alone. Or perhaps no longer alone, for something vast and gentle filled the space where fear once lived. The demon was gone, but its echo lingered in the wind, not as threat, but as harmony. From that day, people say the sky held only one sun again, but those who have looked deeply enough know the truth. The second sun never vanished. It simply moved inside the hearts of those who dare to remember. And every time a soul rises from darkness, every time someone faces what they fear most, both suns burn again, even if only for a moment, restoring the balance between the seen and the unseen. 6. The quiet. After the storm, there is a silence that doesn't belong to the world. It belongs to those who have walked through it. It doesn't come after victory or peace. It comes after truth. You don't find it in temples or mountains. You find it in yourself, once everything false has fallen away. The chosen one learns that awakening isn't a thunderclap. It's a slow dissolving of illusion. You expected transcendence to be bright, loud, filled with revelation, but instead it feels like stillness, a strange kind of clarity where nothing has changed, and yet nothing is the same. You look around and see the same sky, the same faces, the same world that once terrified you, only now you see through it. You see the hidden mechanics of everything. How pain teaches softness, how loss creates space, how even the darkness served a purpose you couldn't see before. You begin to understand that every shadow has its place in the geometry of light. Without contrast, there is no perception. Without struggle, there is no depth. What once looked like punishment now feels like design. You move differently now, not with haste, not with fear, but with quiet precision. You no longer chase meaning. You embody it. When you speak, your words carry the echo of everything you've endured. People won't understand it at first. They'll say you've changed, as if change were a betrayal, but what they're really sensing is the absence of chaos. And that calm will frighten them more than your storms ever did. You learn to love gently, not because you've forgotten the pain, but because you've stopped letting it define the borders of your heart. You forgive, not as a favor, but as freedom. You stop needing to be right, because truth no longer feels like a weapon. It feels like water, clear, flowing, patient, and somewhere deep inside, you realize the demon never left. It's still there, but smaller now, quieter. It no longer hides in shadows. It sits beside your light, an old companion. Because you no longer hate it, it no longer rules you. You both exist, teacher and student, mirror and reflection. Every now and then, it speaks. Not in words, but in sensations. A shiver before a lie. A tightening before a false choice. It reminds you when you start to drift away again, not as an enemy, as a compass. You begin to see that divinity isn't an external presence, and darkness isn't an external curse. They are forces within one system, dancing in rhythm, the inhale and exhale of creation. You don't have to control it anymore. You just have to participate consciously, and as you walk through your days, you notice how the smallest moments feel infinite. The warmth of light on your skin, the hum of the city, the quiet heartbeat before sleep. You realize that heaven was never above you. It was always inside, waiting for your attention. The world doesn't celebrate this kind of awakening. There are no songs, no crowns, no applause. But you don't need them. The silence itself is your coronation, because in that silence, you can finally hear the sound of everything breathing together. Light and shadow, hope and fear, you and the universe, not as opposites, but as one continuous sound, endless, alive, whole. There comes a moment when words begin to lose their shape, when everything that needed to be spoken has already been said, and what remains can only be felt. That's where you stand now, not at the end of a story, but at the edge of understanding. You have walked through shadow and fire, through noise and silence, through memory and forgetting. You have faced the demon, and in doing so, you discovered it was never the enemy, only the reflection of the parts of you still longing to be seen. You didn't destroy it, you integrated it. You reclaimed what was always yours, your light, your balance, your breath. The world hasn't changed. Not yet. The streets still hum with distraction. The sky still wears its indifferent blue. But something inside you has shifted. Where fear once whispered, now awareness hums quietly, like a heartbeat beneath still water. You have become both the question and the answer. Both the fire and the calm that follows it. Do you feel it? That subtle difference, the weight that once pressed against you now moving with you. That's what happens when you stop resisting your own depth. The universe no longer feels like something you must fight. It feels like something breathing with you, through you, around you. Awakening is not about perfection. It's about participation. It's about showing up fully, trembling, imperfect, alive, and knowing that every breath is sacred simply because it exists. You don't need to perform holiness. You don't need to chase enlightenment. You are already the light, learning to remember itself through form. Every scar is now a map. Every silence, a temple. Every mistake, a prayer in disguise. You start to realize that there was never a single path, just countless spirals of returning. Each time you fall, you rise a little clearer, a little lighter, a little more yourself. And though the mission began as a battle, it ends as a rhythm. You don't fight the darkness anymore. You dance with it. You let it teach you where the light belongs. Because the truth is not the absence of shadow. The truth is the coexistence of both, woven perfectly through your being. So when life becomes loud again, when doubt returns, when the world tries to drown your silence, remember this. You have already met the storm. You have already touched the center that cannot be shaken. Close your eyes, and you'll hear it. That same ancient pulse that first called you here. It hasn't faded. It never will. You are not returning to the beginning. You are returning to yourself, to the place before fear, before the masks, before the forgetting. The place where the chosen one is not a title, but a truth. Not a hero's crown, but a state of remembering. So go quietly now. Live wide awake. Let your presence speak louder than your words. Wherever you walk, walk as one who has seen behind the veil. Carry the light, not as a torch, but as your shadow's companion. Because the journey isn't over. It's eternal. And eternity, you will find, is nothing more than a single breath held between the silence before creation and the silence that follows it.